I wanted to take the new Epstein Birthday Album that's now in the public domain because it was obtained from the Epstein estate by way of the House Oversight Committee and then published in newspapers like the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to take it from a legal perspective. I mean, we do sit at the intersection of law and politics here on the Legal AF YouTube channel. I'm Michael Popok. Welcome to Tuesday morning. Let's take it from a legal perspective because there is a lawsuit between Donald Trump, who's the plaintiff, who sued the Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch, which has been pending since July down in Miami. Since I practice in that neck of the woods as part of a national practice, I want to tell you about what's happening there. That case in which Donald Trump threw a number into the complaint of $2 billion. By the way, you don't have to list any number in a complaint other than the jurisdictional minimum, which is in the tens of thousands of dollars, not $2 billion, but he does it for the headlines. So Wall Street Journal, the beginning of July, publishes one page, which does not show the card, but describes the handmade card of one of dozens and dozens that were compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell and put into a leather-bound book, scrapbook for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday 30 years ago. So Donald Trump wants the American people to believe that somebody in a time machine went back in time, glued a submission of his into the book to make him look bad, forged his signature, knowing that he'd one day be president of the United States and this would be used to embarrass him or bring down his administration. You have to believe all of that. And no self-respecting jury or judge is going to believe any of that. So in the beginning of July or the middle of July, Wall Street Journal, Bombshell, they get a copy. They do all their journalistic integrity stuff, meaning they corroborate it with witnesses who have seen it. The reporters see it. It gets vetted, I'm sure, through their First Amendment and defamation law firm and counsel, and it gets published. Donald Trump doesn't like it. They reach out to Donald Trump before publishing it. He gets Rupert Murdoch on the phone. This is all public record now, and says, Rupert, it's not me. I don't doodle. I don't draw. That's not my signature, although he never saw it, so how does he know? I love that. By having the conversation, it basically concedes the existence of the document that he claims he didn't make. You know, it would be like you and I talking about 30 years ago, something you made in art class in high school. Like, can you remember what you made in art class? So Donald Trump, though, emphatically tells Rupert Murdoch, I didn't do it. Rupert says, I'll look into it. I'll get back to you, or I'll take care of it. He did. Presumably he called the reporters and the editor. He spoke to the lawyers and they said, run with the story. And they ran with the story. Donald Trump didn't like it. He filed a lawsuit in Miami. It gets assigned to Judge Darren Gales. I know Darren Gales well. He used to be a trial court judge in Miami-Dade County in the state court level. Full disclosure, I'm friendly with him. I raised money for him when he was running for office or running to be retained in the seat. Help support his campaign, but I haven't spoken to him in years, and he's on the federal bench. Okay. He's also the judge who presided over the Michael Cohen defamation case brought by Donald Trump for $500 million that eventually got dismissed by Donald Trump. So let's just say that Judge Gales knows his way around Donald Trump and defamation. Same lawyer, Alejandro Brito, same judge, similar allegations. Okay. Now, what has just happened in the last 24 hours, which strengthens the hand of the Wall Street Journal to move to dismiss the case and or win the case? I want to talk about defamation as a body of law and the defenses to defamation from somebody who's practiced in that area. All right. In order to win against a news agency, when you are a public figure, you have to show that what was published was untrue, that it injured you, that caused you damage, and when you're a public figure, you have to prove that the reporting agency or the person did so with what's called actual malice. It's a legal term. It's a term of art. It's been defined by the case law of the United States Supreme Court, including a case called Times v. Sullivan involving the New York Times. And it means you have to have either know that what you're publishing is false or recklessly disregard the truth or falsity of what you're publishing. And if you can't get over that hurdle, you can't make out your case in a defamation case. If you're not a public figure, if you're not Donald Trump, if you're your next door neighbor, and you scream something out about my next door neighbor being a child rapist, that doesn't have to be proven that I knew or should have known that was false, or I knew it was false. You could just get a defamation case without that. The other main defenses of a news reporting entity like the Wall Street Journal is always the same for defamation. Truth. Truth is the ultimate keys that let you out of the jail of defamation. And again, though, this heightened standard that Trump has to prove, the burden is on him. It's not, actual malice is not a defense. Actual malice is an element of the cause of action. So the burden is on the plaintiff, on Donald Trump, to prove actual malice, not the other side. Truth is a defense, meaning the burden of proof. Whenever you have a defense, you have the burden as a defendant to prove it. If it's an element of your claim against somebody or cause of action or suit, the burden is on you. So it's a burden shifting idea, right? Now, what do we have? The Oversight Committee subpoenas from the Epstein estate the book, the birthday book, which we read about in the Wall Street Journal. It comes out. We've now all seen it. I just did a hot take on it. What do we see? It's an outline of a woman. It was described in the Wall Street Journal, but now we see it. I will put it up on the screen. It's an outline of a woman. It's lewd. I don't want to know if it's X-rated, but it's lewd and it's disgusting. And then every line along the woman's body, why does it always have to be some misogynistic woman exploitative thing when I'm talking about Donald Trump? Every line is some reference to Jeffrey Epstein's secret life. Donald Trump denies that he knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a dirtbag pedophile. Yeah. But when you read about he's an enigma and a secret life and sweet secrets, I mean, come on now. I mean, then you're willfully blind. Then you're recklessly disregarding the truth of this person that's in front of you. And then it's signed Donald with his Sharpie pen, which he reserves, as opposed to Donald Trump on official documents, for letters that he writes to friends and things that he signs. How do we know that? Because the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal have published letter after letter after letter after letter from their own archives and from things given to them, showing the exemplar of Donald Trump's signature over and over and over again, and then showing the match. Now, nobody can repeat and replicate their signature exactly, but this is the way handwriting analysis happens. I want to bring us back always into the courtroom. You do not need an expert. It's called a question document expert. There's a lot of FBI former handwriting experts running around as question document experts from Langley, right? I've hired them in the past when I've had a document where the document seems forged, which is what Donald Trump is alleging. He doesn't use the F word, but he's claiming it was forged, not his signature. The whole card was forged, okay? Right. Somebody, before you were really famous and running for office, glued your birthday card into a book with your signature using your vocabulary like enigma, and it's a wonderful thing, and all your phrases, because they wanted to tear you down in 2025. This is what you have to believe, and no jury is going to believe this. So let's get back to forgery. So if it were forged, he'd have to call that out as part of his case and demonstrate that it was forged. How do you do that? You don't have to have a handwriting expert. You don't have to have a questioned documents expert. The jury is sufficient. Just the 6 or 9 people off the street, they now become handwriting experts, because the law says that if you're given the jury should be able, as the fact finder, to look at an exemplar, which is a confirmed, authentic version of Donald Trump's signature, compare it to the signature on the birthday card, and make their determination whether Donald Trump is right or wrong that it was forged. I mean, he's not claiming the Wall Street Journal forged it or the New York Times, just that somebody, some undisclosed person forged it. Remember, there's like 50 or 60 other submissions in the book. They're all forged. Bill Clinton's is forged. Alan Dershowitz is forged. You know, then there's a guy in there, Mr. Pashkow, who I never heard of, but apparently flew on the Epstein flight a number of times. And in his He has a funny photo. It's not funny. He has a photo of Epstein and Trump holding a big check for $22,500, suggesting that Epstein just sold Trump a girl, a woman, for $22,500 as a discounted collateral. In what world is that funny? But the fact that people around Epstein and Trump talked about them trading girls and women in a sexually depraved and misogynist way, I mean, in truth, in humor, there is sometimes truth. So that's the book. So to believe, so you put the if you're the other side, if you're Donald Trump, you got to take a version of your signature. For the Wall Street Journal, there's dozens of Donald Trump's signature with Donald in the public record. The New York Times went through its archives. It found all sorts of Donald signatures on different letters to Ed Koch and Julie and different people and published them. By the end of the week, we're going to have 100 signatures that we can compare, the jury can compare with Donald Trump's. That's how it happens in a court of law. And they're going to conclude that Donald Trump, more likely than not, because that's the standard in a civil case, the preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not, meaning the balance, here you have the scales of justice, and you just tip ever so slightly, like a feather on the scale, in one direction or the other, and that side wins. That's it. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's criminal. It's more likely than not, right? That's why civil cases are easier to win for the plaintiffs than criminal cases are for the prosecution in general. So Donald Trump's going to have to run this theory if it ever gets to a jury trial, but I'll tell you why I don't think it ever gets there. He's going to have to run his theory. This is what the jury's going to have to believe, and the American public, that somebody wanted to harm Donald Trump 30 years ago. So they forged his signature and fabricated a birthday card to make him look bad about a guy at the time that we did not know was a sexual predator, but we later learned was a sexual predator, but that they put in a card that suggested that Donald Trump knew he was a sexual predator, and a photo from somebody else named Pashkow who suggested that Donald Trump was trading women with Epstein. And they did all that to harm Donald Trump, knowing 30 years later he'd be the second-term president. And even though that's a signature that matches all the other signatures, that's just a very good forgery. And he's not a doodler, and then they'll put up all the things on the screen in front of the jury of Donald Trump's doodles. And I don't use that language that's in the birthday card, and then they'll put up all the language that matches Donald Trump's use of words like enigma and phrases like it's a wonderful thing and whatever else. He loses this in a court of law. He's losing this in the court of public opinion. And what I would do if I were the Wall Street Journal is I would, this week or early next week, bring an immediate motion to dismiss this case. I think it gets granted by Judge Gales. And if it doesn't get granted now, it gets granted after summary judgment. On summary judgment, maybe 2 or 3 months from now, after discovery is going on. Curiously, nothing is going on in the case. Nothing. I checked the docket. There hasn't been movement in that case in over 3 or 4 weeks. They were gonna rush to take Rupert Murdoch's deposition. That sort of got sidelined. It'll be coming up one day. Trump will sit for a deposition. There's no aggressive prosecution of the case by Donald Trump. He just has his communications directors jump up and down like Taylor Budowich. Oh, the Wall Street Journal better get their checkbook out. They'll be writing a big check now. I don't think so. This is now a news story, Taylor. The Oversight Committee got the book. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and others got the book. It's public record. They reported on the book. How is that defamation? I'll continue to follow it all right here. Thank you for being on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button here. Slide over to Legal AF, the Substack, and do the exact same thing. And we're looking for paid memberships there in order to continue to bolster our entire universe of all things Legal AF. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.